Welcome to Lip Service for Contractors. Here you'll learn what moves the needle in your business. With your hosts, Brigham, the deep thinker, Josh, the $100 million contractor, Zach, the confused millennial, Laura, the foreigner. Lip service. It's not about dictatorship. It's about leadership. It's not about duplication. It's about innovation. It's not about stuff. It's about your people. Strap in and get ready for some lip service.
And we are back with yet another episode of Lip Service for Contractors. You guys have got a fantastic episode for you today. And it all comes down to your people. And your people are what matters. And what happens when they're going to leave? How do you stop them from leaving? How do you keep them? All that, much, much more in 60 seconds.
Power Selling Pros is the customer service coaching company for contractors. Their one-on-one coaching for CSRs helps contractors book at least 85% of their calls and wow more customers. And their group training for technicians helps you create a better buying experience in the home and close more sales. Visit powersellingpros.com to learn more about how you can make more money with their coaching programs.
Chances are you love what you're hearing on Lip Service for Contractors. And if you want to go deeper, have an actionable playbook, or just want to learn from some of the most successful and profitable contractors in the industry, check out Clover Marketing from Josh and Laura. They give away free, amazing information, tools, SOPs, scripts, and processes that help their family business grow to over 140 million. And those same tools have helped other contractors in the industry blow up their business and grow an average of 20% every single year. Check out growwithclover.com/free gifts. They update the free gifts section all the time, so make sure you keep coming back.
Welcome back, Lip Service for Contractors. Yes, how do we keep our people in the game? I know Josh is chomping at the bit to say something. So Josh, why don't you start us off?
Well, I want to start with something simple, which is number one, if you're losing people, are you losing the right people? Is it okay? Like a lot of people have this knee-jerk reaction, like I need to save this person, and that's not necessarily the truth. So like, I think you have to take it. So many contractors are held hostage by field staff, particularly, right? By technicians, by salespeople, by installers, because they don't feel like they could recruit, right? And a lot of times they make decisions to keep people on and fight for people, and sometimes pay people even more than they're already not worth because they have this urge. So I think the first thing, like if someone's leaving, you should always have the right thought process. Like, do I actually want this person or not? If my thought process is maybe I don't want this person, but I can't get someone to replace them, this is like a different kind of conversation. You should let that person go and get decent at recruiting. So that's my first thought. Any thoughts on that?
I feel like people are going to say F you, Josh, when they're so busy and they've turned down calls because you let a person go. I get it. But
cancer's a cancer though.
Right.
You know, there's people that you want out, but some people keep them through the busy season and you don't realize the cost of that person. Like the burnt customers that they have, the team members that leave from a bad example or leave because of that bad person, or the culture, or, you know, the callbacks, or like there's a big expense to having the wrong person do business with you or work for you that a lot of people don't do the math on. And sometimes like, yeah, like, should you turn down the callers? No, you should get better recruiting. Like there's a system to the recruiting that makes it repeatable and scalable. And it doesn't matter whether you're a $1 million business or $100 million business. There's a way to effectively recruit people where you're not held hostage. But in the short term, if I had to send a guy out that I knew had a bad attitude, that caused problems, that didn't have great workmanship, didn't care about his work that much, didn't care about the company, or not take a call, it's painful, but I'd rather not take a call.
so what if the guy wants to leave and he's an all-star? Like you just really don't want him to leave. Of course, you also don't want to be held hostage by him in that he can demand everything in the world and get it. But how do you create that win-win situation?
That's most contractor strategy. What are you talking?
So I spoke with, I literally am giving you like a full real example. I spoke with contractors this morning, two guys, awesome guys. And they have a plumber. He's a young guy and they brought him in and trained him. He's now awesome, but now he wants to leave because he's now the top guy and he wants to grow. and he's got nobody to learn from because the owners are on the owners are in the office trying to work on the business. There's no one more experienced than him on the field. He wants to leave and he's hell-bent on leaving. How do you convince that person to stay?
So, I mean, that's a complicated question because it's a really specific example. The reason it's complicated is because, he says he wants to leave because he's the top guy, but that's probably not actually what it is. It could be a few things. Number one, he doesn't feel like he has upward mobility, he has nowhere else to go. Right. It could be that he doesn't feel like he's getting the proper training. He doesn't have the role models that he needs. It could be an excuse for, hey, I feel like I'm capped on pay. There's 1,000 things that could come off that. So without a real conversation with that person, it's really hard to know exactly what the problem is. If it really is like, hey, I'm the top guy and I don't want to be the top guy, get him a mentor. Have him do ride-alongs with another company. Get him some training. This isn't complicated stuff. It helps him, helps you. It's an easy win. But yeah, overall, like everybody, and you've all heard me say this before, and everybody's listening to this podcast, everybody leaves at some point. And we hope it's for retirement, but everyone leaves at some point. And sometimes you lose guys that you don't want to lose. And it's painful. And it sucks. But it's part of business. And sometimes you can't save those guys.
How do you approach those conversations, though?
What I would argue is most of the time that happens, you screwed up a long time ago. Meaning like, if that guy had to come to you and say, hey, I'm not getting training, I'm not learning anymore, I'm not feeling challenged, I'm not making enough money, you should have seen that coming and you should have put processes in place. You should constantly be training. You should, if he's your best guy, is he supervisor or manager potential? Should you be talking about that? Should you be moving up in position? Should you be talking about him going into a sales type position, right? Where he's just selling, it's a plumbing company, you said. So selling dig jobs or repipes or he goes only on water heater calls. Give him that growth opportunity. Give him the skills and teaching that he wants, right? And that's not just a that guy problem. Like if that guy's having the problem, your whole team's probably having a problem.
Right.
So you screwed up a long time ago, is the honest truth. But hey, I already screwed up. It's done. On that one-off situation, it's a one-off. You have a conversation. You see what you could do. You try to make it right. You try to do the best you can for him. And if that's not enough, that's not enough, and you got to live with that. But I feel you can fix it for everybody else.
I feel like these conversations are conversations we all have as employers, regardless of being, directly in the home service space. And Brigham, for whatever reason, when I look at you, you look like you're casting your mind back to situations where you've had to save people in your business, people that you've really not wanted to leave. How did you approach those conversations and how do you suggest people approach them?
And I will definitely get to that. And I appreciate the opportunity to just kind of think while you guys are talking. And you have an extra interview, whether that person's a cancer or not.
Oh, for sure.
And if that person leaves and you're relieved, the first thing you should do is find out. I mean, because in the back here, you're going, oh my gosh, yes, they left. I have been there 1,000 times. And then you're going, wait a minute, why did they leave? I mean, they had it good, right? They had it so good. I mean, ridiculously good. Yes, I wanted to fire them, but why would they want to leave? Do you see what I'm saying? There's a disconnect there.
Because other people will do the same thing.
Yeah. So here's what I'm getting at. I had a gal that was a quote unquote cancer in my mind, in my opinion. And I was trying to figure out how to release her, right?
Into the wild.
And give her the opportunity to do a job she would love more.
Yeah. You know what? And I admit that I'm not really good at that, right? I like to keep my employees like I keep my customers, right? Nobody leaves and anybody who leaves comes back and so on and so forth, right? That's kind of our outlook. But she sent me a box full of things. Obviously, none of us we don't have a brick and mortar building. So all the things that she accumulated working with Power Slam Pro, she put in that big box and she shipped it to me. Along with that, she had an envelope that was 4 pages long about how much I sucked. In that envelope, I know this is surprising.
A bulletproof version, you know what I mean?
In that envelope, along with the letter, the you suck letter, she had her business credit card, the Power Slam Pro's business credit card, cut up into itty little bitty pieces. And I sat there. I know, right? It's fun. And I nobody could possibly believe anybody could think this way about me, right? But I sat there and read that letter probably 4 or 5 times that day. And I came to realize that there was a few things that I did that created this. And look, if you're a business owner who doesn't look in the mirror, regardless of whether or not the cancer is a cancer, you're making a mistake, because as you grow, the company grows. As you stagnate, so does the company. And we can debate about that later, but I will die on that hill. I really, really believe that.
Can I make a comment real quick?
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
don't want you to lose it. You said there's sometimes that you are excited to have someone leave.
Yeah.
That's fucking terrible. I've never had that happen. Never, ever, ever. Because if I'm excited to have them leave, I pushed them out. Right? Like, that's not what we're talking about, right? There's many times, and I think we've all lived this one, which is they left and they're like, a few days later, a week later, a month later, you're like, that guy or girl was so much worse than I thought. That happened, right? But if you really want someone to go, get rid of them. Like, that's terrible. Business, relationships, you're not like, I think, Brigham, you have this thought process, and I know a lot of contractors do. Like, if you let someone go, you're doing a disservice to them, because like you let them down. But that's not actually always the case. Sometimes that can be the case. But if they're not good at this job and they're not happy and they're not a good fit, you're doing way more destruction to them by keeping them than giving them the opportunity to work somewhere and with someone that they would love.
The point that I'm getting at more than anything is as I read and pondered this letter, I asked myself, is there anything about this letter that is true? Okay. Is there anything about the letter that is true about me? And even if it was misconstrued, even a little bit, what could I possibly learn from this experience? And so what it came down to is that
I can't believe someone did that. Anyway,
I believe it. People are crazy.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I agree with it. It's just like, especially because anyway.
Well, she didn't have a job. She had plenty of time,
Yeah, let me explain it. So 6 months before she left, right around the time that she was becoming a quote unquote cancer, she asked for a biannual review. And instead of scheduling that appointment immediately, which I should have, I put it off. And the reason why I put it off is because what happens when employees ask for reviews, they ask for a raise. Exactly. So I knew that she felt that she believed she deserved a raise, and I didn't. And I didn't want to have to deal with that in that point in time. So I put it off. And I put it off. And the more I put it off, the more disengaged she became. It's funny because there may be business owners listening to this going, wow, Brigham, you're so dumb. Well, I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one, because every time I sit down with a client and they lose somebody who's incredible, they ask themselves, I don't even know what I did. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And it is a matter of looking in the mirror. Was everything she said about me right? No, absolutely not. Were there some things that I needed to improve and get better based on what she said? Absolutely. Absolutely. So I learned a lot from that. I learned a lot from that experience.
Did you reply? Did you acknowledge it? What happened next?
No, I let it die. With your other team members.
I don't know what he did.
No, listen, I let her go. Sorry, I said, see ya. Sorry you feel this way.
Had she quit and then sent the box, or sent the box and then quit?
Quit sent the
Well,
box, right?
It was simultaneous, right? The letter was a resignation letter without notice.
Oh, okay. I got you.
So no, I'm not going to have her back.
No, obviously not. But yeah.
But I can learn from the experience.
So
tremendously.
Well, I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we're on the same page. Like, if someone leaves that you want to leave or don't, you've already screwed up. You've made mistakes already. You're not providing like a good business. To be clear, everybody leaves. Like, I cannot stress this more than like I'm saying it. Like, you could be the greatest place in the world to work. You could be Disneyland and pay people twice as much as Disneyland, and you'll still have turnover. It's inevitable. Life changes, situations changes, people change. And with that comes turnover. You're not eliminating turnover. There's no such thing. You're only reducing or mitigating. But by creating an amazing place to work, by paying effectively, you have less of this, right? But when someone leaves, let's like hyper focus on like what the actual topic was. Because we're talking about now, like, what if we didn't really want them, which I think is an important part of the conversation. But we've all had people that were like, holy shit, this guy's a badass, and he leaves anyway, right? And you feel like you've done what you should have and you could have to make him want to stay. But now you're at this conversation where the person is either made the decision or in the process of making the decision of leaving, right? Or going somewhere else. What do you do and how do you save them? And I mean, can you save them?
That's my exact question. For me, my instinct would be ask them why they're leaving and whatever it is that you're not fulfilling upon, whether that's they're not getting paid enough, they're not getting enough training, there's not enough growth opportunity, like just fulfill on that need. That would be my initial instinct. So I wonder, number one, would you guys do the same thing? But number two, what if they don't trust that you're going to fulfill on that? Like, is there
If they don't trust you,
contract or
if they don't trust you, this is a bigger problem. Go ahead, Brigham.
So I have another story. And
I love stories.
So, well, just because it's happened to me so many times. So we love keeping our customers and we love keeping our employees. And so one of our best business developers, and the industry knows him, his name is Ryan Keenan, phenomenal talent. And a few months ago, there was an opportunity that came up and he was so excited about it. He was excited about the role he was going to play. And he's been with Power Slam Pros for the last 5 years. So he gave us a 2-week notice. For a split second, I wanted to hyperventilate, grab a bag and just, inhale, exhale. But what I decided to do is called my PR company, had them do a write-up on him, sent an email blast, and told the industry how excited we were about Ryan's next role that he was going to play in another organization. Had a great conversation with Ryan. He loved Power Selling Pros. We loved him. I told him the door was always open, even though I'm very excited about this opportunity that he's going to be embarking on. And just, you know what? Door is always open, my friend. And as a matter of fact, I got a call 2 weeks after that. It took me a few weeks to get over it. But Paul Redman, who's been on our podcast, called me up and he said, Brigham, I've never seen anybody do that for a past employee that was moving on. That was so cool. And I was glad that the industry was noticing how we handled it. Well, a few months later, the once in a lifetime opportunity didn't pan out the way Ryan thought. And it's interesting because he sent a text to Barry Gates first, an owner of Power Slam Pros. And then of course, Barry was like, all right, well, let me talk to Brigham. He immediately calls, guess what? What? Dude, Ryan's coming back. I'm like, sweet. And we got to be cool about it, right? We got to be cool. And so, dude, we were bouncing off the walls. And what was crazy is Ryan was like, dude, thanks for giving me a second chance. I'm like, But in the back of it, I'm like, yeah, dude, seriously. It was the coolest thing to have him come back. And when he came back, we do our Monday morning meetings. And this is the perfect meeting because he is there saying, you think the grass is greener on the other side. But I'm telling you right now, there is no place better than Power Slam Pros to work. And I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you by my own experience. And if you ever think that you should be leaving Power Slam Pros or anything, think again, because you never will find anything better than Power Slam Pros culture. And I'm just going, this is amazing. I'm texting Barry, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And he's texting back, oh, it's awesome. So, yeah.
Your Brigham's like, never try save a person, just tell them leave.
No, but honestly, I think there's truth to that, though. Like, some people get opportunities that you can't compete with, and you got to do what's right for them, too.
100%.
And like fighting to keep a person or making it a bad experience for them when you know it's the right move for them is not cool.
Agreed. And I was saying this earlier when I was chatting with our client. I learned this from Rick. Sales is only bad if you lie, deceive, or it's not what's best for the person. If it's what's best for the person and you really think you can fulfill on either giving them more growth or giving them more money or whatever it is they're looking for, then absolutely offer them that, but bloody hell stand behind it. And I don't see necessarily another way to approach that conversation versus discover what it is that's causing them to leave and really go your damnedest at meeting that need. Or is there, Brigham, do you have a certain, an ulterior approach?
Yeah. Okay. So when people are ready to leave to a certain extent, it's almost too late.
Agreed.
Okay.
Usually, not always, but usually.
I mean, look, you can save them. And you're going to have to, it could involve changing up hours. Obviously it's going to be focused in on their time. It's going to be focused on their income, so on and so forth. I'm sure there are others on that list that you can add. But at the end of the day, to keep them, you might give more than you should give. And then you're looking back on it and going, why did I do that, dude? That wasn't a good deal. And so It's tough. So what do you do before it even happens is what I would like to get to, unless there's something else you guys would.
No, I think that's a good, because there are things you should be doing consistently, right? But let's answer the question directly, and then we'll go into what we do. So like, if someone's coming in that we want to keep, that this guy, this gal is just a badass. We love them. They do great work. They have great attitude, but they have an issue or an opportunity that's slightly larger than ours. The first thing I'm going to do is like really discover why they want to leave.
Mhm.
You have to do that exit interview. You have to have that conversation, but you have to be careful about how they answer. Meaning like someone doesn't leave for $1 more an hour. They just don't. It's just not true. That's an excuse hiding the real reason that they actually want to leave.
Right.
You know, and people will say this to me all the time. It's like, they're paying left for $1 more. I'm like, no, they did not.
Mm-hmm.
There's zero chance that's the truth. No one leaves for $1. They leave. They stay because of relationships. They don't have a great relationship. They don't feel upward mobility. Like, you have to make sure you're asking like that 3 questions. Okay, but why? Okay, so I left because it was $1 more. I get it, but $1 more is not that much money. Like, why do you think this is a better opportunity? Like, why is $1 more enough for you to make a decision? Right. So you have to go levels deep and figure out the actual cause. And then you need to address it not only with that person, but you need to address it with other people if it's a systematic issue. If it's because they don't feel like they're getting enough training, all of them aren't feeling like they get enough training. Maybe some care more than others. Maybe some are more vocal than others. But like, you should build your business to support your all-stars and everyone else equally in a way. You give them all the same opportunity to train. There's no need to make it different. In fact, it gets more expensive if you do it that way, right? So you need to break down the details, and you need to have a real conversation of why they're leaving and how you're going to fix it. I think anytime you have that conversation, it's not that they don't trust you, because if they don't trust you, it's a whole different problem. But I think it's important that you put timelines. You can't just say like, I'll figure it out. I'll work on it.
Right.
And then 2 months later, nothing's changed. Right. Which is what they think. Right. So like, here's why, if someone says, hey, like, I just got this opportunity and like, I want to be in management, and you go, I want you to be in management. I think you have that potential. Let me sit down. I'm going to sit down with Laura. We're going to have a conversation of where we think you could be, what that time frame will look like. Maybe you could be a manager with us. Right. And then I'll say, I'm meeting with Laura on Friday. Me and you are going to have a meeting on Monday to talk about what we discussed. And we'll see if that makes sense to you, right? So there's clear deadlines, there's expectations of what that looks like. Don't just leave it open-ended, because that's as good as saying, sure,
Right.
absolutely, yeah.
Right.
I'll say yes just to make you happy, and then
Right. And that fear, that I think that place where the place where he's like, I hope he means it, or I hope, but then he means it. I hope he will fulfill on it because I know he's busy. That uncertainty, I think, would be enough for him to be like, you know what, I just cannot deal with this uncertainty. I'm going to take this new job. So yeah, I agree.
Well,
creating that level of assurance.
you got to understand too, like, moving jobs is not an easy thing for anyone. Some are more adapt to it than others, but there's new dynamics. There's a lot of unknown. There's uncertainty. You don't know how the culture is. You don't know, like, you've got on a piece of paper how you can get paid, but you don't really know what's going on. You don't know how
People are motivated.
Expectations. Like, so
People are motivated by the grass is greener, though. People are for
sure.
They get excited by what's possible.
They show them the shiny 10%, and
Right.
you know, it's an iceberg. You get to see the 10% above the wire, but 90% of it's below the wire. And, you know, they don't talk about it, right? So you just got to make sure you're combating that too, like, and having that conversation and trying to figure out why they're leaving, and like, are they getting the full story? There's a lot of uncertainty. The point of that is when you switch jobs. So like, don't be afraid to attack that, number one. Number two, they don't switch for small reasons because of that uncertainty. Brigham, how you like, someone's amazing wants to leave. How's that conversation go with you?
Well, I'm going to find out what it is.
You just avoid the meeting like you did with the gal on the chair. It's you and then I sent you a box full of stuff. I'm only joking.
I've already established
I've already established that I'm not perfect. So here's the deal. So you might find a few things out from this individual, and it may come down to time, and it may come down to money. You know what? They might even say they're leaving for $1 less. And you want to absolutely dig, right? You want to dig and you want to find out what it is, because it could be any number of things. It could be a culture thing. It could be that they don't feel like,
There could be so many things.
yeah, it could be that they don't feel understood, and it's tough. They've made this decision, right? They're in their mind, it's done. So to undo it is extremely difficult. I could throw some tactics on this podcast, but the thing is, the damage is done. And the question is what got to what was it that got this person to this point in the first place? Because if you were to do a few things, give a little, make some promises, you got a 25% chance of keeping them. And I'm just throwing.
I think that's high, to be honest. But that's a high number. Exactly.
And that's exactly what I'm getting at. It really doesn't matter what tactics I spew. The percentage of keeping that individual once they've decided to go is very, very difficult.
Right. Well, not just keeping them then, because you sometimes talk them into staying then, but you're having the same conversation, a month, 3 months, 6 months later.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, and it is about being preventative. And another conversation I had today, we were talking about the culture has, they're always around vacation, so the culture's dipping a little bit. No fun, just all it's just people are hounding at it for results and just no fun. And because of that, they're fearful people will leave. And I was like, well, what are things you could do to inject more fun into the organization? And all that this person could tell me was we could play spin the wheel more. And I was like, well, shit, if this is all this person's got, this culture really must be right. The culture just sounded kind of like just boring and lacked fun at such an extreme level. Fun is obviously one way to have people enjoy coming to work, look forward to it. But there are obviously other, things to put in place. Actually, a big reason that they think this gentleman wanted to leave was because he felt like he had too much on his shoulders. So that's just, that's proof that perhaps it's just gone too far and they need to put things in place so the guy or no other guy experiences that load. So
it's not the load usually. Like if someone feels like there's too much on the shoulders, it's actually usually because they don't have enough fun. Those are directly related. I don't think that make them related.
No,
like if a manager feels too stressed out, it's because he's not getting enough wins and he's not enjoying the job. You stress less when you enjoy it. Sure. And to be clear, you don't enjoy every part of every job. All of us do things that we don't love. It's part of the deal. If you're making your team members stressed every day, you will have a retention problem.
Right. So what do you put in place to stop these conversations happening? Go ahead, Brigham.
So 2 primary things. Number 1, they need to have a leader worth following, and they need a culture worth being a part of. So a purpose-oriented culture worth being a part of. So that's where, when I say, hey, they need somebody worth following, that's where the leader needs to continuously work on themselves. You see, I share that story about that gal 5 years ago because I learned from it, right? I was dealing with indifference. I chose not to care about that situation. I chose not to make time for it because I knew that we were going to disagree. I chose not to have that difficult conversation when I should have had it. And that indifference ended up hurting me and ended up hurting my organization. So it's a matter of learning from that and growing from that, right? In order to be a person worth following. And that's the intent of sharing it. There are a ton of, we cause our own problems. Leaders cause their own problems. They say that payroll's coming up and you're not sure how you're going to cover it. If that negativity, I know this never happens, right? But when it does, if negativity comes into play and everybody's starting to feel the stress of covering payroll, that could hurt. That could affect your company culture. You'll have people spruce up their resumes quick if they don't think they're going to get paid. Your constant positivity, your constant energy when interacting with your team is extremely, extremely important. So just getting rid of human tendencies, whether it's negativity, whether it's indifference, whether it's your own ego getting in the way, whether it's selfishness, you're writing yourself checks before you write your team checks. It could be any number of things, whether it's fear, whether it's entitlement, whether it's pride, all of those things you want to constantly keep in check. If you can keep those things in check, you can become somebody worth following, somebody that people want to look to and be like and emulate.
So that's
number 1. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say number 2, the one I mentioned, but the other thing I mentioned was a purpose-oriented culture. It cannot be about a box in the backyard or a box in a closet somewhere in your basement, right? It needs to be something bigger, something purposeful. For us at Power Sling Pros, even though we do call handling training for the most part, we dabble with other things as well, but that's primarily what we do. That's not who we are, though. Who we are is about building people. We build people. And how do we do that? Well, we help them have self-confidence, self-reliance, and we help them become more service-minded. And as they do, they'll feel more fulfilled in their work. We feel fulfilled as we build those people into those types of competencies. So that's kind of how I go about it. Those 2 things. You need to be a leader worth following, and you need to have a purpose-centered culture worth being a part of.
Yeah. I'm going to simplify your thought process a little bit, and then I'm going to actually challenge you, Brigham, here. So 2 things. Really what you're saying by your leadership and your culture, there's other things involved in that, to be clear. But the very basic is be a great place to work. If you're a great place to work, yeah, you have to have a strong leader. You have to have a great culture. By the way, you have to pay well. You need to have upward mobility. They have to find that they have the chance to make more money and do more things. They have to have growth and learning, right? They have to feel safe. They have to have a diverse job. Like, if you're having to do data input all day, every day, you're probably not going to keep that person very long, right? But be a great place to work is a simplified way of doing it. And there's a lot of tips and techniques and tricks that we can spend hours and hours talking about. And that's so important, by the way. It's unbelievably important, because if you're a great place to work, not only can you retain people, but you can attract better people and more better people. So like your life becomes easier. It's a one size fits all solution. But I want to challenge you. And I don't know the girl's name that sent you a letter, but she actually gave you a solution that you seem to be breezing over. And the solution she asked for is she wanted a biannual review.
Yep.
And a biannual review, like you could think of the only negative part to it, which is, hey, they may ask for a raise. Or you could think of the other 95% of a biannual review, which is, hey, I'm checking in to see how they feel. How are they doing? How are they doing compared to the peers? Are they getting wins? Are they frustrated? Do they feel I'm a good leader? Are they a good follower? Do they like the culture, right? Are they comfortable with the pay? Do they feel they have upper mobility? By the way, I like pay conversations. Somebody asked me for a raise. I'm like, yeah, I want to pay you more. Well, how do we get you to make more money? It's not just by pay you more for doing the same thing. That doesn't make sense. You want to make more money? I want you to make more money. You got to deliver more results or do something different, right? So by having those reviews in that conversations, it opens up your eyes to issues before they want to leave. If you had done that 6-month review before, you may have let her go on the spot, or you may have fixed it enough where it wasn't such a weird, terrible ending. But by avoiding that review, you focus on the one thing, which is like, she's probably going to ask for more money, which is probably true, which you probably should have been like, yeah, I want you to make more money.
Of course, that's what I should have done.
Right?
Yeah.
So like having those reviews, a lot of people, contractors blow over those all the time. It's like field staff, we do reviews with them all the time. They're not really reviews, but we sit down, we go over their numbers, but it's the same thing. Like some people do with managers. How many people do with CSRs? How many people do with accountants? You know what I mean? How many people do it with warehouse staff? You need to be doing this stuff, not just because it helps you save that person, but it'll help you identify holes that you did not know that were there, like in a much faster way. Most of the time, you find big holes like that when they're so big that money's leaking out, money or people, but they start much smaller and they grow to that. Plug the hole before it gets human size. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So biannual reviews done by everyone listening to this podcast from here on out. Why? Because we want to talk to them not just about their income. Are they loving it? Are they fulfilled? Are they emotionally engaged? Where do they see themselves inside the organization in 3 years, in 5 years, so on and so forth? What are their interests? What do they want to do? You may have no idea what their interests are. So get them talking about the future inside the organization.
Did you see that cutie just visit us?
Beautiful.
I know.
Wait a minute. Are we talking about your mom?
Are we talking
For those not watching, my child just came in the back and made us both smile.
By herself, though.
No, carried by our nanny. I love it. It's
What, your kid? What do you love?
which
Which is good, by the way. You should love your
you're doing my chat.
You gotta do biannual reviews with your children, you know?
At least.
It's
No, actually, this is a weird segue, but like that is true. I'm not suggesting you do biannual. This is an overall relationship advice. If you're not doing regular check-ins with what's going on, are you happy? What would you like to be different? Like you're messing up there too, right? This is not just
Like in relationships, period.
yeah.
totally,
Oh, for sure.
totally.
Wow. We just got deep.
You know what came into my mind? We got they're like conversation, they're table topics. There's one for couples. Any listeners should order them. They're so fun. They're so insightful. But there should be ones for teams. I think that would be awesome. I'm sure there is.
We got a new business idea. Yeah.
Right.
Everyone buy them now. I'm just playing.
I'll buy the URL. Well, guys, I enjoyed that. Is there anything that you want to add to this topic? We've discovered that, yes, saving people, of course, you should certainly attempt to do via an exit interview, but it might be too late. Go ahead, Josh.
I want one more thing. So we talked about doing exit review. Everyone should be doing exit reviews all the time. Some people you can't get one, but as much as you physically can, because you want to know the details of why they leave, even if you don't really mind if they go. But step beyond that, which a lot of people miss, is you could get the conversation, but you better document it. Not everyone does that, but you also need to create a database of it. Meaning, if I had 10 people leave over the last year or 100 people leave over the last 5 years, what are the most common reasons why?
Right.
It's going to help me identify where I need to spend the most attention and focus.
I agree.
And like, even for small companies that, hey, I've only had 2 guys leave in the last year. If they left for the same reason.
Exactly. See,
And if they're 6 months apart or 3 months apart, odds are you're not going to remember that last guy left for that exact same reason. You need to document it, keep track of it. And
I say the same.
Like learn and grow.
I say the same with like a customer. Like, yes,
For sure. We do exit interviews with every customer. It's less thing with a contractor. I'm sure Brigham does it too.
Yes, it sucks if you lose a team member, but if you can learn from it, it's like sometimes spending, weird analogy, but like sometimes if you're spending marketing dollars and chances are it may not work, but if you learn from it, if it's a new marketing campaign and it may not work, but once you learn from it, heck, that's okay too. It might end up helping you attract better talent or keeping talent that you didn't, keeping more talent long term. Once you learn from a mess up, it can really justify that mess up.
Yeah. I mean, I do like consulting visits all the time, all the way across the United States and really the world now. And I'll go out and spend the day, and I tell people all the time, I'm there to teach all day. I speak all day. I dive in, find problems they didn't even know about. Some they did. I give them solutions and playbooks, right? And I always tell people, like, I learn as much from these visits as you do. Sometimes it's like, this is a great idea I've never seen before. I want to test it, right? Sometimes it's what not to do. And
it's like dating.
They're equally valuable. Sometimes like, oh, I never tried that, but I'm definitely not trying it now. Like, I don't have to. I've seen it in action, right? It's a joke, but it's really not. Like, we all do things that are stupid in every business. And outside perspectives, like, oh, yeah, you shouldn't be doing that, but I'm certainly not going to be doing that.
We should do a podcast on that. Like, have loads of like really industry leaders on and be like, what are things that people think they should do, but they absolutely shouldn't do? I'd be so curious to hear some insights. Anyways, guys, thank you for joining us. Any parting thoughts? Either of you?
Subscribe. What's the other laundry list?
Share. Follow, share, tell all your friends, write out a 4-page letter, cut up a credit card, send it to us. Let us know all the things you like and dislike about
stuff in a ball.
That would be awesome.
Oh, please.
Kind of.
I mean, honestly, I would say don't do that, but if you want to do that, I think it's hilarious. I'll actually bring you on to the podcast and have a conveation with you and do it.
Yeah, that'd be good.
If I get that 4-page letter, you got to figure out the address. This is your problem. But no, I appreciate everybody stopping by and learn. I know today was kind of a different topic and it was interesting to us, at least. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. It's a problem, but you already screwed up. It's like Brigham. He's a blue belt or purple belt jiu-jitsu. Blue. Yeah. So like people in jiu-jitsu, a lot of people know I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt, right? And you get like a white belt, which means a new person. And they always ask like, so how do I get a rear naked choke? And it's like, well, the answer is not to get in it. Like, you're already too late. Are there some escapes from there? Yeah, but they're very low. Like the odds of them working are very, very low. It's too late. So if you're losing people that you want to keep, that's inevitable. But if you're losing them regularly,
For the same reasons.
or for the same reasons, you've already screwed up. You should have fixed it beforehand. Now it's too late. So
yeah. And if you are in a rear naked choke, just tap out. It's the easiest way to get out.
yeah, that's the
Great,
easiest
100%.
solution. Yeah. I get out almost every time when I tap out.
Cheers, guys.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Go change the world. Appreciate you.
Thank you for listening to Lip Service for Contractors. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to leave us a review in the App Store and don't forget to share with your friends. Ideas are cheap. Implementation is what separates the winners from the watchers. Go out and implement these ideas. See you on the next episode of Lip Service for Contractors.